Here in the Florida Panhandle, Santa Rosa County Sheriff Wendell Hall has been praised for cracking down on illegal immigration. There's just one problem. He isn't allowed to do so. That's the job of the federal government.
We don't enforce, federal immigration laws. We're not 287G certified. We have no jurisdiction over that.
Instead, Sheriff Hall has been enforcing state laws against illegal immigrants. He raided businesses to find workers who were using other people's social security numbers.
We simply would go in to enforce the false documentation laws.
One of the first targets was Panhandle Growers, a nursery in Allentown, Florida, between Pensacola and the Alabama border.
They said they had a complaint.
In early February, several police officers showed up at Panhandle and asked to see the work documentation for all employees.
And he said that we are not legally required to give them our documents, but they said that that's fine. We'll just arrest them when they leave the property, and we have a helicopter on standby. Now, they didn't tell me that. They told my partner, Glenn.
The sheriff's department took away 13 Panhandle employees. All of them were Hispanic. 2 days later, officers went to a local Mexican restaurant, La Hacienda. Geronimo Barragan and his wife Gia opened the restaurant in 1998 and a second outpost in 2005. The local police are regulars here, and the community loves the good food, affordable prices, and family atmosphere. But in early February, Sheriff Hall raided both restaurants.
Actually, I was going to pick up my daughter from the school.
And then what happened? Someone called you, or? All the customers were asked to leave so the sheriff could check employees' paperwork. Sheriff Hall arrested 10 of Mr. Barragan's employees, forcing him to close both restaurants for 2.5 months. Only one has reopened, as he struggles to find enough workers. Mr. Barragan was surprised by the police's actions. So were many residents. Only 3% of Santa Rosa's population is Hispanic. Unemployment is low, as are the crime rates. It's a church-going, friendly community. In fact, residents welcomed immigrants just 4 years ago after Hurricanes Ivan and Dennis decimated the area. Immigrant workers repaired their roofs and helped rebuild the community at a time of great need. Yet over the past few months, with the economy slumping and Congress still grappling with immigration, residents have begun to complain. They claim that local Hispanics have failed to assimilate. Many say they've become especially frustrated after seeing Mexican immigrants at construction sites.
They weren't the normal guy from Milton and the local good old boys doing the framework and that type of thing.
It's also an election year, and residents like Mr. Buckles admire the sheriff's actions and think it will help him win. Sheriff Hall got the idea from Bay County.
The sheriff down in Bay County, he would get a bunch of squad cars and go to a construction site, and he would chase the people that ran. And of course they came down and said, "Oh, you're discriminating." He says, "We have every right in the world to chase people that run." So.
It was a controversial move. Courts have held that running is not enough justification for an arrest, which is why Bay County now avoids doing it.
They told us how they were doing it, which is exactly the same way that we did it. It stood up in court because you're enforcing a state law. You're not dealing with immigration laws. We said going in, we're not. This is strictly a documentation check. We go in. We didn't chase anybody. We never chased anybody. We had a lot of people run, but we didn't chase them.
They ran out the door right here, and I saw them bring back like 3 women.
But 3 employees here at Emerald Coast Interiors told a different story.
They had them caught on the front.
Not only did the police chase Hispanic employees who ran, they didn't check any other employees' documentation. And at the Red Barn restaurant down the road, the owners say that the police left after seeing no Hispanics working in the kitchen. In all, 27 illegal immigrants were arrested. All of them were Hispanic. 2 months later, the impact is still visible. Erica Barragan's husband speaks English and calls his son by an American name, but he does not have papers entitling him to work here, so he will soon be forced to return to Mexico. She and many like her will have no choice but to follow. Those who remain avoid driving so they are not caught in traffic stops, and they are afraid to be seen at local businesses. Some consider that a success.
And since February, I don't see as many Spanish-speaking people up at the counter getting Western Union money orders.
This is America. You have to abide by whatever the rules are.
But others have been put off by the effort.
Nobody's ever cared up until now. I mean,
yeah, like when we needed all of our roofs fixed after Ivan, they didn't care.
For Mr. Barragan and his family, it's all especially heartbreaking. He and his wife are both now citizens of the United States. They have been in Santa Rosa County for more than a decade. They even founded a church in the community. But the church has lost almost half of its members since February's crackdown.
Oremos por mi esposo también, que está trabajando muy duro.
Para mí no fue tanto como mi esposo dijo el ganar dinero, ¿verdad? Sino amamos la gente aquí.
No los culpo porque leyes son leyes, solamente fue duro.
His workers paid Social Security and income taxes. Although he had suspected that some were using false documents, he said he didn't know for sure. Now he's dealing with the consequences. He still hasn't found enough workers to replace the ones he lost. And most of his new hires have only 6-month work visas. He feels hurt, not just by the sheriff or his former employees, but also by his adopted country.
I love this country, the people.
This is like a promised land, like God says.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Barragans are trying to put the raids behind them. Mr. Barragan has even visited the sheriff to let him know there are no hard feelings. Judging from the long lines in his open restaurant and the signs at the closed one, the community seems supportive.
I know it was big here. Everybody was like, "Wow, it's closed."
Yeah, because I mean that's like a
that's
really
where a ton of
big,
people
like,
go.
That's
yeah.
like, I mean, we're a small town, and that's a big part of where people go out to eat.
Everybody loves
you know, it's
Waha.
cheap, it's good, and people were nice.
But the temporary visas run out in November, and a more permanent solution seems a long way off. Congress will not likely pass new immigration legislation anytime soon. In the meantime, people like Sheriff Hall will remain in charge.
Don't come to this county. Don't steal someone else's Social Security number or their identity and use it. It's a crime. Don't use that false documentation to obtain employment, and they won't have any trouble out of this sheriff.